Hello, everybody. My name is Jacob, and I like sports, and welcome to another edition of JK Sports. And today, I'd like to bring you guys my top 10 power rankings for the upcoming NFL season. Now, to start off this list, we have two teams from Los Angeles. Both teams missing the playoffs. However, both teams, I believe, are going to improve in this upcoming season, first of which will be the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, last year, I believe a big issue was, unfortunately, Phillip Rivers. He's the franchise's best all-time quarterback. However, threw way too many interceptions. His accuracy dropped. We all know he's not mobile. He has that fiery spirit, which is he's gonna continue to force those throws. However, you see they went out and got somebody who's complete opposite in free agency, of being Tyrod Taylor, a much more conservative quarterback who has gone to the playoffs before, so he can win as a starter, as well as the fact they drafted Justin Herbert for maybe now, maybe the future. All I know is they have two quarterback options, as well as they've brought in the likes of guard Trey Turner, corner Casey Hayward, still have Derwin James, still have Bosa, still have Keenan Allen, still have a pretty good offense all around. So I believe they're going to step up this next season, look very similar to the team we saw 2 years ago that lost in the playoffs to the Patriots. And now, speaking of 2 years ago, the team that was really good 2 years ago, number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, didn't really add much in free agency. Don't really have the cap to do so with Jalen Ramsey under contract, Aaron Darnold on contract, Jared Goff under contract. But a contract that did get rid of, which was a situation from really the beginning or the tail end of the Super Bowl year, was Todd Gurley. He was a stress to the team. He was just hanging over the team. Like, nobody really knew what was going on outside the building. And I mean, I got to give credit to that coaching staff that really tried to hold that team together. Now, they still finished 9-7, which, and they missed the playoffs, which looks bad. However, they still have a pretty formidable record. They still have a pretty good record. And, they still have a lot of those same players from that Super Bowl winning team. Last year felt a lot like an all-star team, just a compile of good players that didn't really mesh well together, as like I previously stated, as well as what I previously stated with the Todd Gurley issue. They're going to come back, and with a really stacked NFC West, they could surprise some teams. Now, number 8, we bring our first team that made the playoffs last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, a lot of people have been hating on Carson Wentz, and I started joining that a little bit halfway through that season until he brought that team to the playoffs with, as Colin Cowherd says, deck furniture and pillows or whatever. Fortunately, in the offseason, they added 2 positions of need, which being receiver and secondary. Now, with the receivers, they've drafted Jalen Reagor, and they brought in Marquise Goodwin. Helps a lot, considering Carson Wentz's best receiver going into the playoffs last season was a quarterback in college, as well as they brought in Darius Slay. So, the team already made the playoffs, already is probably the best team in the division, adds where they needed to add. Number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, a lot of people still have doubts of Kirk Cousins. I am one of them. However, we did see last year with a primetime win in the regular season, as well as the fact that they went to the Saints and beat them in the first round of the playoffs. That's the biggest question of Kirk Cousins. He wins. He has a winning record. He has a pretty decent record with the Vikings. However, he doesn't win the important games. He doesn't win the primetime games. Last year, we have 2 examples of that. So, he stepped up, and the team doesn't really have a lot of holes. Now, they lost Diggs in the offseason, went and drafted Jefferson from LSU. The team's pretty much the same from last season. However, it's the best team in that division, and I still believe Kirk Cousins has a little bit more in him to prove. Not too much of a fan of the guaranteed contracts they keep giving him. However, once the game is being in play, money doesn't matter. So number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 6, Seattle Seahawks. Now, with this team, what more do you really need to say than Russell Wilson? You could say the most disrespected player in the league, second best quarterback at worst in the league. They got a strong defense still. And if they didn't lose their whole running back core, they very well could have beat the Packers last season. And we saw that how they competed with the 49ers in the regular season last year, that game could have been a lot different if they had matched up against the 49ers instead of it being the Packers, who just got washed. But with Russell Wilson coming back, maybe adding Antonio Brown, that team's going to look really strong and could be a dark horse Super Bowl appearance. I'm not sure. Hard to say. Number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They added Tom Brady. Added greatest quarterback of all time. Got one of the weirdest quarterbacks of all time, and Jameis Winston, who is both great and terrible at the same time. The touchdowns with Brady, the touchdowns are still going to be there, but those interceptions are going to be cut at least in half. Like, you can't have 30 interceptions and expect to be a winning football team. That defense was still really good. The defense was never the problem. The problem was the quarterback was just giving the ball away too much, and they had to keep going back onto the field, which, eventually you're going to allow points. Eventually you're going to look weak. And adding Tom Brady, when you get that receiving core of Evans, Goodwin, bringing Gronk in, it's going to be a fun team to watch. It's going to be a fun team to watch competing with our number 4 team being the New Orleans Saints. Excuse me. Now, I feel bad for the Saints. They have had 3 terrible losses to finish their seasons the last 3 years. Of course, Minnesota Miracle, blown pass interference call, and then, of course, as I previously mentioned, again against the Vikings when Vikings beat them on a last-second touchdown in overtime. Well, I shouldn't say last second, but a touchdown in overtime to win the game. And outside the big 3, which we all know who those big 3 should be, the Saints are the best of the rest. They got a really good defense. They got one of the best receivers in the game with Michael Thomas. Got a really nice running game. Still got that Swiss Army knife of Taysom Hill. That's his name. Also Jason Tatum. Now, the only question I do have is if Drew Brees is going to be able to corral that team back together. This is supposed to be his last season. However, we all know the ignorant comments he had previously in the offseason. Hopefully that doesn't affect the team too much, and hopefully they can rally together for his last season, maybe push on to a Super Bowl appearance. However, if they were to get to that Super Bowl, they'd have to beat, in my opinion, the best team in the NFC, my number 3 team, which is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, they lost to Forrest Buckner, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the league. However, they added a lot in both free agency and the draft. Added Trent Williams. They lost their all-time left tackle in the offseason or to retirement. And there's a question of how they were going to replace him. Were they going to draft somebody? What was the deal? Didn't end up drafting anybody. Waited a week. Got Trent Williams for a really cut price. And as well as adding Jason Verrett, drafting Javon Kinlaw, drafting Brandon Ayuk. It's the best team in the NFC. Now, we saw that they came short in the Super Bowl last year. However, they still went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. Still went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. Went toe-to-toe with my next team, the Ravens, earlier in the season. And they're the best team in the NFC. What can you say? Now, a lot of people still hate on Jimmy Garoppolo. However, I do believe he's worth the money being paid, and I do believe that they can continue next year and, like all these other teams I've just mentioned, hopefully for their sake, see a Super Bowl appearance. Now, as I just previously mentioned, number 2, one of my Baltimore Ravens. They had a really good offseason. Adding Calais Campbell, managed to keep Matt Judon via the franchise tag, and they've drafted Patrick Queen and J.K. Dobbins. Now, the team didn't have much holes as it was, and they still added great players, which is always good to see. You got to add good players. You can't just stay where you are. You can't be complacent. If a team's not working, you got to find good players to bring in. Now, that team has been amazing the last 2 seasons. Ever since Lamar Jackson stepped into the role, last year, him winning the MVP, he's been a very nice quarterback. He's hard to stop. He's really hard to stop. Even if you know what he's about to do, it's still really hard to stop. He's so quick. He's so agile that you really can't compete against it. Now, of course, when you come to the playoffs and you have at least a full week to devote strictly to his system, whereas you might not always be able to do that with the regular 16-game season. It's a little harder to prepare for each individual team. However, when you got to focus so hard on one team, 2 years in a row, they've proved that the Ravens haven't been able to step up to the task. Now, this season, for my sake, hopefully it's different, but that's the still big question about them for me. But the number 1 team that has hardly any questions they haven't answered, winning the Super Bowl last year being the Kansas City Chiefs, and all I can say is they got the $500 million man. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the league right now. They got him under contract for 10 years. 10 years. Still have Tyreek Hill. Still have Travis Kelce. Added Edwards-Helaire, the running back out of LSU in the draft. They're the best team in football. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be a fun team. In my opinion, they're going to be a fun version of the Patriots. Now, They might not win the same as the Patriots. They might not win 6 titles like the Patriots have won over their 20-year dynasty. However, they're going to be there every year. If Patrick Mahomes stays healthy, they're going to be there every single season, just competing like they were last season. And honestly, probably going to get at least 2 or 3 more Super Bowls. So let me repeat that back for you guys. Number 10, or let me just go 1 to 10. Chiefs, Ravens, 49ers, Saints, Tampa Bay, Seahawks, Minnesota Vikings, Philadelphia Eagles, Los Angeles Rams, and Los Angeles Chargers to wrap up my top 10. What do you guys think is going to happen with the upcoming season? Do you have any opinions on all these 10 teams I listed? Who's good? Who's trash? Let me know. Who's your top 10? Thank you all very much for watching. Please get down in the comments below, as I just previously mentioned. Please like, please subscribe. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.